in the lightning lane. The lunch pail, Matt American, Matt American!
And welcome to another edition of Behind the Gate with Scott and Kate. I'm Scott Waddell. Unfortunately, Caitlin unable to join us so far. We hope she might cut in here shortly. But again, we'd like to thank our sponsors of tonight, which is our 24th episode. Never thought we'd have that many early on. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of the episodes. And our sponsor tonight, Denmark Acre Standardbred Racing and Breeding, and they are standing Matt American for the 2024 racing season. And we're proud tonight to have a special guest with us from over in Cape Breton area. And he's a business owner and a guy that's been around the business. And when we kind of go through his stats, I'll explain that. But he's kind of been in and out a little bit of the business. So we'll talk about that coming up. But first of all, we'll go through this gentleman's stats. He's got 5 years of driving under his belt, 600 drives, 90 wins, 108,000 in purse money, and a great average, 284. And he's competing in his first ever Atlantic Regional competition coming up later on. And on the training side, he's got 85 wins, 92,000 earned. And like I mentioned, 2005 to 2019 was kind of away from the business for a while, and got back in it in 2019. And he's got a great training average, 310. So we'd like to welcome to the program tonight here on episode 24, Mr. Ardon Mofford. How you doing?
Great, buddy. Scott, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast. I've been following it, and you guys are doing a great job, you and Kate, giving some exposure to our game.
Yeah, you had mentioned you listen to the odd one when you're on the road traveling, so we appreciate your support for sure, buddy.
Yeah, for sure. I enjoy them.
So going back quite a few years, you had your first win with a horse called Bet on Art, and you had made a handful of starts way back in 2001. So kind of tell us the story, Ardon, about why you stopped driving after just a year and then returning quite a few years later.
Well, I mean, it's a long story. It goes way back to the mid 70s when my parents had Mountain Idler and were in Freddie Saunders' barn. That's when the seed was kind of planted in the horse racing game for me. And then my life kind of just took me all over the place. My education and different things took me from Montreal to Halifax. And when I finally landed in Sydney back in 92, we bought Governor's Pub and Eatery. It was the second family-run business that we bought, and I ended up being in Sydney. So I met up with Herbie Holland, and I started just kicking around his barn, and I started training. And then I got the itch again that I had back in the earlier days, and that's when I got my trainers. In 1998, Herbie went to Mohawk, and then I was kind of left back in Tartan Downs by myself. Picked up Philly McNasty off of Billy Cass and came home, and so I'm going to get my license and I'm going to train my horse and drive, because we're always racing everybody at a Herbie's barn. We had Hot Asset, and then Hot Asset, I sent her up to Ontario to race for Blair Saunders, and she shattered a cannonbone. So then I brought her home and decided to start building a stable. That was my first attempt at a stable. Yeah. And I bred her, and she had 3 foals for me before I got out of the game. And so drove Philly McNasty in character a couple of times and didn't have much luck. She was kind of sticky, and she was a really good mare, and she started in the Winners Over. Kind of lost my confidence, and then just kind of focused on training for a bit.
Yeah.
Ran into a little financial hardship and ended up selling off my entire stable 1 year before Meridian Magic was born out of my mare Hot Asset. So if I could have hung on one more year, we would have probably been all right. But yeah, so then I just focused on my business and my education after that. And then I started judging. And I got the itch sitting in the starting gate and in the judges stand watching the boys drive. And I just decided I wanted to get back at it. Spoke to my wife about it, and she supported me and said, "It's always been a dream of yours. The ghosts of regret are always there in the back of your mind." So I had some unfinished business, wanted to win a pair of mutual races. How it all started with my dad's horse, Private Paradise. Actually, is who I wanted to win with.
Yeah. So here's a question for you. You spent some time in the booth, and you mentioned the starting gate. What's it like to be on that side of the business where, you've certainly watched a number of races over the years, you've competed. What was it like to look at racing from that vantage point?
Actually, it was a very interesting part of my racing career in the stand. I really enjoyed being in the stand. I really enjoyed the starting gate. You're close to the action. There's adrenaline on the gate. You're swinging into the first turn with all the horses. I really enjoyed being on there. The stand kind of gets boring after a bit. You don't have the interaction with the guys on the track. That was the part that I really enjoyed, and I enjoyed starting the most.
Yeah.
And but it was great. And it's part of, I think it made me a better driver and a better horseman to be able to experience it from that, because you really get to see the guys driving, more specifically driving. Because when I first started driving, the driving colony wasn't very supportive. It wasn't like people were helping you, that nobody, you'd get off the track, and it was completely different environment. So when you watch guys drive, you can learn from them when you're up close, watching what they do, and kind of transferred onto the track. And it worked for me. And in my second run, kind of consider my first year back this time as my rookie season, because them first 9 drives, I barely remember them. And it was all Philly McNasty, and I had a Lindy Lane trotter that I converted to the pace that was just horribly gated. And I think Coleman got on the phone and said, my nickname was Bunker. He was like, "Hey, Bunker, do us a favor. Don't drive him. You don't do him any good, and he does you no good." When I broke going into the first turn. So that was my first experience with the judges. So I marked that in the back of my head when I became a judge and said, "Don't talk to a driver like that. Kind of encourage them if you can."
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So you had a great year last year, Ardon, winning 42 races. Of all your wins last year, can you pick up a couple in your mind that kind of stand out?
Oh yeah. I mean, Dressel Hanover had to be, in the Governor's Cup, in the race that I've been sponsoring for years, had to be one of the highlights. Going into the first turn, drew the inside, and he's kind of a mixy gated. He was a 3-year-old at the time. Lots of speed, lots of talent. Swings wide behind, hits the bike, has all kinds of things that goes on, and he carried himself in a funny way. I think it was just some soundness issues going on, but he winged off the gate. I took control, and they never got to me. It was a battle coming down the lane. I think he paced in 58-3 in the 28th or so of October. So it was late October, late in the season. That was pretty exciting. And then he came back and drew inside again. I controlled it again and fended off Rotten Ronnie, which was, amazing. And Red pulls up to me and goes, "You're rough, Mofford." And anyway, so I was pretty pumped. And then the final, I drew outside, and it was all over. I moved him, and he was kind of off that day. He just wasn't himself, and I moved him at the 3/8. And he can be rugged. You can go off the front, but he just didn't have it. He just kind of let go early, and he just didn't have much. But that was pretty exciting race for me. And then I would have to go with, I'd say, real big in Gathering Week in Inverness. It was Wednesday night, massive crowd. The stakes were in town. Corey was driving. Him and I got in a couple of battles, and I just nosed him out at the wire there for Lily Watson and Lily and Barry's horse. So it was pretty exciting for them, and it was really exciting for me. You come down that stretch, and the people were the roar was unbelievable. You can hear them on the backside when we were turning. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
a big win. And well, so I'd say Sonny Jacks. I really like that little colt. I got him late in the year. It's always nice to win with a 2-year-old, and then he just learned well, and he won 2 out of 3 for me at the end of the season for Deborah Rankin and her brother Colin. They do the conditioning on them most of the time, and I do the training. Nice colt. Just picked them up that late in the year, but he's nice. And of course, I won with dads. Every time I win with dads, which is like once every 2 years.
Yeah.
Paradise. He's our stable, our barn over here, and our bed and breakfast is called Private Paradise after him. So he's going to be
nice.
until he's done, and he's not much left in him, but he won in 2-9-2 in the mud in Inverness last year. So I like that one too.
Yeah. So you had your first win with Bet On Art. What was what did it feel like to get that monkey off your back and get that first win?
Oh wow, Scott, it was pretty special. You don't really know, and it was a hard go because I only had the one horse when I first started driving, and it was Private Paradise, and he was poised to win early on. I think it was in late June, and I got him off the top turn. I said, if I can get the half and 1 and a piece, I'll come back the last half in a minute, and it'll all be mine. He drew inside. It took me a while to get it dry inside. Anyway, I had it all under control, and 7/8, he started pulling away from them, and I was already, getting excited about my first win, and then he just walked home, and he got a flexor tendon, and he was done. So then I had no horse, and
oh damn,
I somehow was contacting Lindsay Kerr, and she said, I got one for you. And I said, is he good? How, I just started driving, and she goes, oh yeah, he's good. He's a good horse, and he'll be all right. Anyway, so she was right. He was good. He won that race for me. I didn't do too much. I think it was like I drew 1. I think I got away 3, and the horse kept wanting to come out. And I'm like, not yet, Art, not yet. We were sitting tight, and nobody was moving in the backfield. But anyway, the 3/8, he pulled out on his own, and he rolled to the front, and he won it for me. And when you crossed the wire, there was a big flow of emotions. And after a long journey that started back in 2001, I finally get my first pari-mutuel win. And, it was pretty special.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, I had to come back really, really, really slow because I kind of had to gather myself. I was kind of a little bit of a slobber and mess in the backside, and Kevin Bailey came up to me and I was like, congratulations, Bunker, and it's my nickname. And
yeah,
thanks, Kev. I said, I'm just a slobber mess over here, old boy. I said, I got to gather myself. He said, enjoy it. And that was it.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. Good to hear. So who's your favorite horse that you've driven so far?
I'd have to say hands down Jimmy Lewis's mare, aka Jimbo Slice from our Wouldn't Say No stable. He had a beautiful mare that I got from Lindsay Kerr as well. A Better's Delight, literally Hanover.
Yeah.
She was always a little sticky off the gate, but man, could she fly. She just kind of kicked it into another gear at the 5/8, and you just hung on, and she'd come swinging off at the top of the stretch and eat them up. I think she paced in 57 in North Sydney, which is a great mile for our track. And just a really, really, really nice mare. And that she's gone now. We sold her to a breeder. She just had not sure who we bred her to. I think it'll come to me, but anyway. And currently, I'd have to say there's 3 of them that are about the same to me. It's like Della's Playboy's been a good favorite of mine. I got all 13 or 14 of his wins since he was a 3-year-old. He's a nice rugged horse, loves to move early and hang on the outside and wear them down. Paces around 58 at our track. Haven't been trying to talk George Delavella, let me take him to Charlottetown or something. I'd love to see him go somewhere where it's a little bit quicker because he's got a lot of step. And then I had a lot of fun with Motion of the Ocean last year. He's got a lot of speed. He's really quirky. He's got a lot of things. He's very unpredictable, but when he gets control early, he can be a monster. And then Dressel, of course, again, I think I expect some great things from him. He's got exceptional talent, and we can keep him sound and get things right. I think he'll be something special this year.
And you had mentioned before we came on here tonight about your Governor's Pub. Mike
I
McGuigan.
mentioned or Mike McGuigan did.
Yeah. Well, I know Mike did. When we told Mike that we were having you on tonight, he said, man, he has got the absolute best restaurant in
He
Sydney.
actually said the Maritimes, man, which is pretty good. I appreciate
actually
that,
he did,
Mike.
yeah.
And, yeah, thanks for that plug, Mike. And your gift card is in the hostess station at Governor's on your next visit for that plug. Yeah, I've been a chef and competed in the gold medal plates 3 times and placed third every time. Unfortunately, never won the big prize. But yeah, I've been it's my trade has taken me all over the world. I've cooked in China and Ireland and New York, and my restaurant in Sydney. I've been there since this will be my 32nd year at Governor's.
Yeah.
And we specialize in seafood and Celtic music and traditional music is our big thing. And yeah, it's been a great business and it's been a great ride there. I mean, at the beginning it was pretty tough, but the last 15, 16 years it's been really good, and we're really lucky. And cruise ships, everything kind of changed in downtown Sydney, so the dynamics became very, very good for us.
No, that's good. You're driving in your first ever Atlantic Regionals coming up. What does it mean to you to make the top 8?
It's pretty surreal, Scott. You know, it's if you told me at the beginning of this journey that I'd be rolling with the big boys at, you know, in Charlottetown at Red Shores in this championship, I wouldn't believe you. So to have this opportunity, I'm very grateful and honored to be a part of it, and just really, really look forward to enjoying the 25th over there. Probably make it a little bit longer than one day.
Oh, that's good. And you've competed at Red Shores before, haven't you?
Yes, I have, and I was there Old Home Week. That was the first real run I had at them, and it was good. I got checks and everything, and everything was good. My filly, I had a filly with Kenny Arsenault there. She was a great little talented, malicious filly, and she had an unfortunate injury to her knee, but she wasn't herself when she was over there. But it was a pleasure to drive over there, and it was a great colony to be driving. It's really great to drive with the boys, and I had a little bit of luck over in Summerside and won with finer things. So so I won at every track except there. So hopefully I can turn that around on the 25th.
So if I had to ask you, what's your favorite track to drive at?
Oh, geez, that's hard, man. You know what, Scott? I love to drive. I think I'd, you know, enjoy driving at Pinette or anywhere.
Yeah.
If there's a horse and somebody puts my name on it, I'll be there. I love driving at every racetrack. But it was very, you know, Inverness is a fun place, and I love our track. We have great crowds on the fence like all the time, so it feels really well. But I tell you, Old Home Week coming down, I'd have to say it was a pretty special moment. Love to be able to win one over there with the crowds you guys have over there on that weekend. I had the pleasure to win one as a trainer over there with Philly McNasty on the Saturday afternoon.
Oh, nice.
Gold Cup and Saucer, and she put her lifetime mark there, and it was such a special time for me. So I'd love to do it.
No, that's awesome. And as you know, we're certainly blessed here in the Maritimes with some outstanding drivers, including yourself. Who are the ones that really stand out to you in the Maritimes that would kind of be your toughest test, do you think, of the other 7 that you're going to compete against?
Well, I would, you know, they're all my toughest tests. That they're all great. They're all great drivers. Sure, I'm 99-1 on the morning line. So, but I would, you know, Mark and Corey, Paul, they're just standouts to me. They're exceptional at what they do. They show up every week. They're always like fierce competitors. You got to have your A game, you know, to be anywhere near them at in any race. You know, overnights, stake races. The boys really got it going on day in and day out. You know, so they really stick out to me.
So this past weekend, of course, you had qualifiers down that way, and scheduled race day coming up on Saturday. and just wanted to find out what horses you have for this year and how they came out of the qualifiers and how you're looking ahead to Saturday's opener.
Uh, I'm looking really forward to Saturday's opener. You know, there are a lot of horses qualified. I think we were up to, I think 54, 55.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really good turnout. I kind of didn't expect that right off the get. There's been such bad weather, and thought people would be getting started late. But yeah, no, it's going to be pretty exciting, and the track looks good. You know, we recently perched the racetrack. We put a little piece on it. It's getting close to being completed.
Yeah.
The new tote board. It's pretty exciting. I mean, there's a great vibe around the track, and there's a great horse population. So I look forward to a really competitive year, and we have some really good better boards there. You know, it's like there's not too many layovers. There's 3 or 4 or 5 horses coming down the home stretch. It's like it's good for betters. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, actually watching from home, I noticed that too, Arden, that some of the most competitive classes I see are out of the Nova Scotia tracks that you drive at.
Absolutely. Like
Yeah.
it's just because we have a good horse population, so it's easier for them, you know, when they're doing the draw and they're handicapping them together. There's a lot of horses that fit well together, and
Yeah.
our winners over is pretty competitive. There's no major layovers. You know, anybody. It always seems to be the draw or the way the race
Yeah.
goes. If there's early speed, somebody will swallow them up from behind. But if they get their way,
Yeah.
you draw inside, you can usually win, and it doesn't really matter. There's 5, 6, 7 horses that can win on any given Saturday.
Yeah, and I seen that you had a few qualifiers this past weekend. And are there any new horses in your barn this year? Or have you got any stake hopefuls?
Yes, I do. I have Maverick Treasure. He's a full brother to Roman Raven. We got him late. We got him in December.
Yeah.
Um, he's down to about 35. He's a malicious.
Yeah.
Had a few setbacks, and they were all just like, getting him gelded. And because I had him so late, everything was behind. And then I had his wolf teeth out, and yeah, but I'm pretty excited about him. He's a big, powerful colt. He has lots of speed, and now it's just a matter of teaching him, and I think he'll be all right. We're pretty excited about him. And then Sonny Jacks, he's a nice 3-year-old for Deborah and Colin that I have there. Also have Who's Your Father with them. She's, I think, a 5-year-old mare this year.
Yeah.
She had I had her for a stint earlier on as a 2-year-old or 3-year-old, and she's a really nice mare as well. And then
Yeah.
Dressel's 4 this year, and like I said earlier, I hope for big things with him this year. He can, hopefully he'll be a winner's over, or maybe a little better than that if everything comes together for him. And then all my own Private Paradise, Don't Tell Kim, Finer Things, and Wine and Cheddar. They're all in my stable as well.
Yeah.
And Motion of the Ocean is not with my stable anymore. Probably still be the driver on him, but Tom and Josh Lynch, they took ownership of him now, and they're a father-son team, and they're going to take care of him from this point on.
So some really good things happening in Nova Scotia. Of course, the government, again, putting some money in this year to the industry, and some more stake money was announced last week, or at least some more money for the Phil Pinckney stakes. What's your feeling on giving the money more so possibly to stakes than overnight horses?
Well, I mean, Scott, I'm an eternal optimist when it comes to this industry. I mean, my passion and love for this game is beyond. So
Yeah.
I like to stay truly optimistic about everything that happens in the game.
Yeah.
And so as far as I like to see some more money go to overnight horses, because without our overnight horses, you don't have tracks for your stake horses.
You don't have, exactly.
And it's so expensive to keep them.
Yeah.
It's just, at some point this winter, hay was $10 a bale in Cape Breton, and that's unheard of. And I mean, I'm
Wow.
just lucky because I bought, 800 bales off the field, and I had them stored, so I was lucky. But I
Yeah.
mean, young Aiden Dix is in my barn, and he's getting hay delivered to the barn 10 bales at a time at $10 a bale, and you're there
Yeah.
to keep a horse. So
Yeah.
they need to get a little bit more money into the overnights, and I do understand the stake programs, and they need to be, they're trying to equal them up, and hopefully somehow we can collaborate with all the provinces and be on the same page with the stakes. But again, it's the commitment of our governments, right? So there's so many factors so many variables involved there that are on, it's easy to say, yeah, we should all be the same, but PEI is way more pot committed from a government standpoint than we are in Nova Scotia, and obviously the lack of commitment in New Brunswick. So we're lucky that they're still committed. I just wish they could understand the impact that their commitment would be for the entire industry. And it far reaches just the horsemen. It's trucks, trailers, hotels, farms, like everybody gets impacted by it if they are committed to us.
Yeah.
And there's lots of young drivers, so I'm excited on that end. In our industry, there's just down here in Cape Breton, in Inverness, we have Monica Sutherland, Zach Mullins, Turois, Keith Leger.
Yeah.
We have Keegan Madden, Jeremy Baker, Aiden Dix. That's just in the last, 2 years? That's incredible, right? It's incredible.
That is incredible.
Yeah. And our horse population is ballooning. All these guys are buying horses. Zach's got a great stable up there. I popped in and visited them. I was over at Reds and changing some bearings on my FMTs. And anyway, I think he messed them up because he told me he didn't want me to beat him on the 25th. So he put them in the wrong way, I think. But yeah, but the horse population is good. And, there's a few things I would love to, and the threat of online gambling is another, there's so many things, so many variables out there, Scott, that impact us. And I think if our government loosens up a bit on the gambling and I mean, we can gamble on anything, on any app, any online component, enabling us to have racinos or VLTs or things that can help us sustain and grow our businesses. Our business models would be a benefit. And I think, collaboratively, if we can all work together as one voice and try to go after the government and make them understand this, I think it'll benefit the whole industry.
Excellent. Good points. Your family, you talked a little bit about your dad earlier. Is your entire family involved in racing, Ardon?
Yeah, well, my dad and my uncle Leroy Mofford was a driver. He was in Truro. He raced in Inverness. He raced here. He had a stable in Hay Cove, and that's kind of where I used to kick around when I was 10, 11, 12 and go to Inverness with him. But yeah, that's where, so my dad's been taking me to Blue Bonnets when I was 5 years old. And
oh, wow.
And then we made our way to Cape Breton in the 70s. And then Leroy followed shortly thereafter and started a stable. And then my mother obviously supported it as a fan. She's always known to be the one hollering on the fence. And if anybody said, do you want to know if Ardon's any good, ask his mother. And then my wife has just been absolutely a monster supporter. She's a master mucker. I went to Barbados there for a week, and I left her home with the horses, and she mucked for 7 days straight. I haven't seen her in the barn since I got back, but and my boys are not really into it. They're busy with university but they'll come. My middle son Garrett, he loves the races, and he'll come, and he's always in the middle of the winner's circle and grab my head, or he's a big football player at Dal, so he just loves the ponies as well. But yeah, it's a family affair, and they're committed. Like, we just bred Sobble Bonnie. We just had our first foal out of her, and it's over in the island at Crockers right now from somewhere fancy. So we're excited about that as well. And yeah, so it has to be a family affair. You're not allowed to race.
Yeah. So is your wife involved in your business, like the restaurant?
No, she has her own business. It's Get Naughty in Cape Breton. It's a nautical gift theme store.
Okay.
Yeah, and she's been doing that. That's her own business, and she's doing extremely well with that. And then we just kind of built the barn with the Airbnbs across the street together, and we're just looking at a new business venture right now, actually here on the north side. So yes, she does her own thing.
Good. You're busy, man, Ardon.
Oh yeah, and I have a tile company too.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, ceramic tile. We do ceramic tile, ABC tile.
See, this is why we do these podcasts, just to find out what people do besides, horse racing and kind of where they come from. And you've been such an interesting guest.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. So we got to ask you. I was doing a little bit of research on you before I came up with some of these questions for tonight, but something that I read was a story about Harold Delaney and how you got involved in what became a real, feel-good story for the community.
Yeah, Harold. Well, John Hocko stabled right beside me, and
Yeah.
we knew Harold lost his home, and he
Yeah.
was kind of a proud guy. He just wouldn't accept any help or donations or anything.
Yeah.
So I said to Courtney, I said, let's do a GoFundMe. And she goes,
Yeah.
he's not going to let you do a phone. He won't let any of us do anything. I said, okay, I'll do it. So I set up the GoFundMe, and it was incredible how quickly it snowballed into what it did. And
Yeah.
completely, got him a new trailer. It was amazing. I was actually overwhelmed, and the press was coming at us at every angle. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, Courtney, this was your thing. I just kind of launched it. And then she started taking the press calls and everything. And it was great. And I was very happy for Harold. And, for Harold, I know how tough he is. And, he acted tough all the time and
Yeah.
rough horseman. And I gave him a big, huge hug. And at the end of it, and like he came over to thank me, and his eyes welled up. And it was a good thing. It was a good thing for him to have a place to enjoy the last few years of his life, because he had a tough battle afterwards with cancer as well. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, it wasn't as long lasting as we all hoped it would have been.
Yeah.
But it was a good feel good story, and I was glad to be able to be a part of it.
No, that's awesome. So that'll kind of do it for tonight, Ardon. It's been certainly a pleasure talking to you, getting to know you, and give listeners a chance to kind of go behind the scenes and know a little bit more about you, especially where you're competing in the Atlantic Regionals. So I want to thank you very much for joining us tonight, and best of luck later on this month and the season coming up in Nova Scotia, and good luck this Saturday.
Great, Scott. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. And again, we thank our special guest tonight, Mr. Ardon Mofford, who you'll see in action in the Atlantic Regionals coming up later on at Red Shores. And again, a big thank you to our sponsors of this episode, number 24, Denmark Acre Standardbred Racing and Breeding. And we've got a entertaining podcast, I think, coming up for our next one as well. We've got Brody McPhee coming on, and he said no question is off limits. So it should be an interesting episode. So you don't want to miss that. So again, thanks to Ardon Mofford, and for myself, Scott Waddell, and Caitlin Wesley, who was unable to join us, but I'm sure she'll be back next time. This is Scott Waddell, and thanks for joining us on Behind the Gate with Scott and Kate.
Deep in the lightning lane, the lunch pail, Matt American,